Did we have rosettes out? For the Columbia show, our first place in the pair of Ram Lambs goes to Megan Inbody, Genera, Ohio. Champion Ram goes to the first place early born Junior Ram Lamb. Entry 3261, Megan Inbody, Genera, Ohio, with Inbody 2562. And that is also best fleece. The reserve champion Ram for the Columbias was our first place late born Junior Ram Lamb. Entry 3262, also Megan Inbody, Genera, Ohio, with Inbody 2645. Now moving into yearling ewes.
Back over here on the Suffolk side, a stout-headed one that I think is big in terms of her foot and bone. Again, a lot of dimension there out through her hip. That's a hard handling ewe. It's got some true shape right out the back side of her shoulder, over her rack and into her loin. Bold in terms of her rib cage. If I could, maybe like to just see her with a shot more base width, square up at her knee, and give her a shot more genuine just width down at the ground to match everything that she's got up high. I think a very respectable single entry. It'll be really nice to pair up here in your champion drive. Congratulations to that due on a high quality single entry.
For our Suffolk show, first place in the yearling U class went to entry 8, 7037, Dallas Bergman, Wadesville, Indiana, with Mountain Man Farm 106. For the senior ewe lamb class, first place to entry 9, 7038, also Dallas Bergman, Wadesville, Indiana, with Mountain Man Farm 117. Now showing for senior champion ewe and also champion and reserve champion ewe.
Well, as we kind of kill two birds with one stone over here on your Suffolk side, we've got a yearling ewe and then a senior ewe lamb. I do think that the yearling ewe has just obviously got a slight performance advantage there. Long-bodied, big outline, late maturing female. I definitely prefer the set of her knee and front foot and the squareness to her chest up front and just the way that she's assembled there at the ground. I like the set of her hind leg and her foot shape quite a bit. Probably just a little bit more consistent there in terms of her top line. A smooth blending ewe 100%. I think in retrospect, there's a really nice one here that comes out of our senior ewe lamb class. She's probably just a notch bolder in the center portion of her rib cage. I think that she's probably just a nickel square up high and bigger in terms of her hip and stifle. Again, I mentioned it in class. I think that she's really fresh condition, but I want to square that ewe up in terms of her front foot placement, her knee, and just her genuine base width there to begin with. A really nice pair of them here. I like the senior ewe, or the yearling ewe, to go ahead and be your champion. The senior ewe lamb will be reserved. Congratulations to both of those exhibitors.
And our Suffolk ring, our champion ewe, goes to the first place yearling ewe, 087037, Dallas Bergman, Wadesville, Indiana, with Mountain Man Farm 106. Reserve champion and reserve senior champion to entry to the senior ewe lamb class winner, 097038, Dallas Bergman, Wadesville, Indiana, with Mountain Man Farm 117. That does conclude our Suffolk show. Give us just a moment. We'll move into Border Cheviots. Border Cheviots, your first class is Yearling Rams. Placing on the Senior Ewe Lamb class for the Columbia's first place to entry number 93265, Megan Inbody, Genera, Ohio, with Inbody 2560. Placing on the late-born Junior Ewe Lamb class, first place to entry 103266, Megan Inbody, Genera, Ohio, with Inbody 2644. Your next class should be for pair of ewe lambs on the Columbias, and then we'll show for champion and reserve champion ewe.
I think our window says Hampshires are next.
Does it? Next class for next breed for the meat ring is the Hampshires. I had that incorrect. So Hampshires should be the next breed. And we're going to be ready now for Slickshorn Senior Ram Lambs. Hampshire's Slickshorn Senior Ram Lambs. For our Columbia show, our champion ewe and best fleece ewe goes to the first place yearling ewe, 063263, Megan Inbody, Genera, Ohio, with Geneva Hills Farm 258. The reserve champion ewe to our senior ewe lamb class winner, entry 93265, Megan Inbody, Genera, Ohio, with Inbody 2560. Placing on the pen of 4 lambs for the Columbias, first to Megan Inbody, Genera, Ohio. Placing on the young flock class for the Columbias, first place to Megan Inbody, Genera, Ohio. And the winner of the Premier Exhibitor Award for the Columbias this year is Megan Inbody, Genera, Ohio. Now ready to move into Corriedales. We need senior ram lambs. Corriedales, senior ram lambs to the ring, please.
Talk about pattern and proportionality, getting this kicked off over here on your Hampshire side. A really smooth blend and good looking one that runs uphill, dead level in terms of his spine and top line. maybe one of the best hip and hind legs assemblies that I've seen come through the ring over here on your meat side. Stout yet attractive. He matches it with a big foot and forearm up front. If we're going to get nitpicky on him, we could maybe just crack him open the base of his chest, give him a shot more in terms of his rack. And for a buck at this stage of maturity, maybe just see him a little bit bigger there and further along in his testicular descent. But I think silhouette, proportionality, and quality from the side, an absolutely good one. Congratulations to them.
Placing on the Hampshire Slickshorn Senior Ram Lamb class, first place to entry 2, 4415, Paradise 26017. Campbell, Corbin and Clark Coyle, Danville, Kentucky. That will also be our senior champion ram. Now ready to go to January-born Slickshorn Ram Lambs.
Well, maturity's kind of working to an advantage over here in retrospect comparatively to the buck that we just discussed. I like this one's stoutness of skull and feature probably just a nickel bit better. He's big in terms of his foot, bigger there in terms of his testicular descent. I've always wanted to teach kids or try to find a spot when I'm coaching my 4-H kids on how to, I'd want to word it, but if you want to talk about the things that the buck that we saw out of the first class brings, I'd like to take his daughters to this buck to inject just probably a little bit more power and rack shape. I think that one's got a bigger loin edge laid into him. His sternum and shoulder angles maybe not just as progressive as in the silhouette as we saw out of the first class, but I think a really nice one in terms of just being durable, bulky, and powerful. We'll see how they stack up here in the champion drive. Really nice one there. Congratulations once again to those exhibitors.
Placing on the Slickshorn January Ram Lamb class for the Hampshires, first place went to entry 5, 4416, Campbell, Corbin, and Clark Coyle, Danville, Kentucky, with Paradise 26050. And that was also our junior champion ram, as well as Kentucky junior champion. Now showing for champion ram. Placing on the Cordale Senior Ram Lamb class, first place to entry 2, 6206. Craig, 2555. Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois. Second place to entry 1, 4730. RP Bull, 2598. Rebecca Bull, Indianapolis, Indiana.
My apologies to the Hampshire Ram Lamb exhibitors over here. This one's actually younger. I do think that he's still in the cattle business. We do it a little bit different. They show him youngest to oldest, and I apologize. We go backwards over here in the sheep ring. A big bone, big four-armed one. Probably reads maybe just a nickel earlier maturing relative to his counterpart. Talking to the one out of that older class, I think just cookie cutter and freshness just is absolutely the name of the game. His hide's incredible, the set of his hind leg and his silhouette. I think that sheep's got a little less flank wool in him too, and you actually get a more accurate reading on his flank line and how he balances there from chest to flank. Really like the way that one runs uphill. It's two completely different flavors. If you want them a little bit prettier, the ram up front's probably got your number. The one here in the back's definitely got a shot more bulk spread and probably just sheer masculinity. I think they're very complimentary. Like I said, I'd like to take either one of them to their daughters, and I think that it would help out quite a bit there going forward. In my opinion, there's just a shot more quality and presentation found in the one out of the older class. They'll be your champion. The younger one will be reserved. Congratulations to that family on a really nice Hampshire Ram show.
Champion and Kentucky champion ram goes to the first place slick-sheared senior ram lamb in the Hampshire show. Entry 24415, Paradise 26017, Campbell, Corbin, and Clark Coyle, Danville, Kentucky. The reserve champion goes to entry number 54416, first in the January Ram Lamb class. Also Campbell, Corbin, and Clark Coyle, Danville, Kentucky, with Paradise 26050. Now ready to move into fall ewe lambs, slick-shorn fall ewe lambs.
Making my job pretty easy over here on the Hampshire side. A single entry that I definitely think could withstand a little bit more competition. She's big and square in terms of her knee and front foot. I like her forearm and just, again, her fresh touch over her rack and loin edge. That one's got a really nice set to her hind leg, clipped in immaculately, presented extremely fresh. If you could, probably want to strengthen her there in her hip loin hookup just a smidge. And as we brace into that one, I'd like to maybe just push her sternum back ever so slightly, smoothing her up there at the point of her shoulder. Really nice single entry there. Congratulations to those exhibitors.
Placing on the class of slick-shorn senior ewe lambs for the Hampshires, first place goes to entry 124419, Campbell, Corbin, and Clark Coyle, Danville, Kentucky, with AC 26018. And that's also first in Kentucky, and that will be our senior champion and Kentucky senior champion ewe. Now ready to move into January-born ewe lambs for the Hampshires, and these are slick-shorn also. For our Corridale Late-Born Junior Ram Lamb class, first place goes to entry 106209, Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois, with Craig 2604. Second, first in Kentucky to entry 87160, Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky, with WM Rex. From the early born class of Ram Lambs, first place went to entry 6, 6208, Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois, with Craig 2606. Second, first in Kentucky to entry 7, 7159, Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky, with W.M. Forkey. And third, second in Kentucky to entry 5, 7157, Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky, with W.M. Duke.
Again, a decision finally to make over here on the Hampshire U side. I still like the lighter featured one to go ahead and just go ahead and take the lead. Big boned and big footed. She's rounder in terms of her forerib and just more appropriate there in terms of her forerib build and design. Big out the back side of her shoulder. I think they both touch really good over their rack and loin. This probably spans just a little bit better. We get back into this one's hip and hind leg construction. I think she's just got a shot more bend and flex. At the same time, you know, I would probably like to make that one just a little bit less bulky at the base of her shoulder, shorten her up there in terms of her blade, and set her back just a smidge in the angle of her shoulder, but it doesn't inhibit her from getting out and reaching out of her front end with a little bit more comfort relative to the ewe that comes out in second. The ewe that comes out in second's later maturing and standing still. I think that's probably as close as we get to probably making a case to switch this pair. She's later maturing, she's bigger outline, she's sleeker necked, and she's shorter bladed comparatively. I do think that she's hard handling. I think as soon as that ewe takes a step, that's one that, again, wants to fall out of her front end. She's just too far forward in the angle of her knee and front foot. I think that ewe wants to break in her top line, kind of washes out there over her loin. Both of them could probably be just a little bit stronger there in terms of their loin edge, and this ewe's just a little bit more fragile and awkward in the use of her hind leg. Paints a really nice silhouette standing. I've just got to see that one get out and motor a little bit better. Really nice pair of them there. Congratulations to those Hampshire exhibitors.
Kentucky exhibitors with those rams in that Corridale class, please stay out there. Placing on the Corridale pair of Ram Lamb class, first place to Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois. Second to Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky. Placing on the Slickshorn January Ram Lamb class for the Hampshires, first place to entry 194418, Campbell, Corbin, and Clark Coyle, Danville, Kentucky, with Paradise 26051. Second place to entry 186864, Jude Parker, Franklin, Indiana, with 24129. For the Corridale show, our champion ram was the first place early born junior ram lamb, Craig 2606, Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois. The reserve champion was the first in the senior ram lamb class, Craig 2555, Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois. Our Kentucky champion Corridale ram went to our first Kentucky in the late-born junior Ram Lamb class, W.M. Rex, Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky. Now showing yearling ewes.
Back over here on your Hampshire side, I think a very complimentary pair of sheep. To me, it's the three-quarter view that probably just goes ahead and makes the difference here in this particular set. The young man's sheep up front's just wider at the base of his chest, and it just matches with a bolder rib cage, a square top, and a bigger pin set, more outward shape there to her lower leg and twist. Get off to the side of the sheep, and I still think that she proportions and balances up extremely well, even though I'd probably like to just, again, smoothen that one up there at the point of her shoulder and give her a shot more bone to match her power up high. The young man's ewe that comes out in second, I think, is genuinely bigger boned and bigger footed. I think that one's more youthful about her head and neck, laid in flatter there through her front end. Silhouette and just, again, proportionality from the side and hind leg posture are absolutely on point. You step in behind the sheep or get in front of them or behind them. That one's probably just a nickel planer in terms of her top shape. She's by some margin the flattest in her rib cage. Need to open that one up and just give her a shot more dimension from end to end. Again, a really good pair of them there. Congratulations to those exhibitors.
In our Hampshire ring, in the Slickshorn February Ram Lamb class, first place goes to 24166 Jude Parker, Franklin, Indiana. Second, first in Kentucky, to Paradise 26111 Campbell, Corbin, and Clark Coyle, Danville, Kentucky. Now showing March and later born Ram Lambs. For the Cordell Show, our best fleeced ram was our champion ram from that early born junior ram lamb class, Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois, with Craig 2606.
Very high quality single entry over here on your Hampshire side. Extremely smooth blending, almost a picture perfect silhouette when you get that one stopped and parked. Her natural head presence and head carriage and arrogance up front really just kind of captivates you with a really high quality image. You get on top of them though, and she's more than just looks there from the side. That one wedges back into a big pin set and a big loin, really right there in terms of the turn of her forerib and freshness of her body shape. If I could, I'd maybe just chisel a little bit out there at the point of her shoulder and just a tick there at the base of her sternum. I think that's getting awfully nitpicky again on a really high quality single entry. Congratulations to that pit crew on a really high quality ewe lamb.
Placing on the March and later born ewe lamb class of Slickshorn Hampshire's first place to Paradise 26127 Campbell, Corbin, and Clark Coyle, Danville, Kentucky, and that's first in Kentucky as well. Next class is pair of ewe lambs. Pair ewe lambs will be your next class. Then we'll show junior champion and then overall champion ewe.
Well, back over here in the Hampshire side, we've both got a class winner, and I believe two class winners over here and a class winner in a second. I think both of them resemble the breed extremely well. We've probably just got a little bit more proportionality and build quality in this particular set. They're just a nickel bit smoother blending. They'll go ahead and be my class champions in this particular instance. Again, over here on this side, I think we've got a lot of raw shape, power, and muscle. Height is absolutely incredible on both of those ewes. Big stout upper pin set. Just got to see things come together just a little bit smoother there from the side. Shot more bone to match their power up high. Congratulations again. Really good class there, a pair of ewe lambs.
Placing on the pair of ewe lambs, first place goes to Campbell, Corbin, and Clark Coyle, Danville, Kentucky. Second place in the pair to Jude Parker, Franklin, Indiana. Now ready to show for junior champion and reserve junior champion ewe, and that'll be followed then by our senior, or our overall grand and reserve grand champion.
As we get into junior ewe lamb champion over here in the Hampshire side, out of that first class, a big bone, bold-bodied one. She's probably just the densest in terms of her rib cage and the center portion of her body. Big out the back side of her blade, massive rack, big old top and hip in that particular ewe, a stout, attractive hind leg that bends and flexes correctly. Her front end construction's probably the things that I want to manipulate just a bit. Little longer bladed, little deeper there at the point of her chest and the point of her shoulder, but a really nice one there. Probably the class or the division leader there in terms of power from her fore-rib back relative to her contemporaries. A respectable second in that particular class, really late maturing, long, big outlines ewe that I think's got a lot of extension and quality in regards to femininity and neck shape. I do think that one just needs to blend and be smoother. She gets a little rough there in terms of her top line, wants to wash out in terms of her hip loin hookup. Need to see her probably just a nickel more coordinated from hock to ground and stouter in terms of her forearm. A nice high-quality ewe that comes out of that second class. I think that one balances up with a really athletic look there from the side. Again, bottom side symmetry, hind leg posture, and an athletic rib cage are definitely some things that I'd want to hear in a description on this particular female. We talked about it. She could maybe just blend a little bit neater there and more seamless over her hip loin hookup. I think that's getting awfully nitpicky on a very high-quality female as well. Out of this ewe lamb class, or the youngest class, I think that this one just reads like a breeding female, but does it with some progressive show sheep pieces. Her flank line, her hind leg posture, and then her wedge up high, and then just, again, a really fresh, youthful, juvenile image there from the side. Love that one's head and neck shape. A really beautiful featured female that I think's got a world of good. 3 exceptionally high-quality class winners. For me, the youngest ewe lamb's going to go ahead and be your champion. Congratulations to them.
There's a good sheep from top to bottom. I chose to start with what I thought was the soundest sheep out here. Good fleece, good black points too. I think pretty easy first place for me. We got here second. Probably gives up a little bit on the bone structure part of it, but real similar maybe in the fleece. Real similar maybe on our top line, and she fits in pretty easy. When we get these next 3 ewes here, we've got some different conditioning scores on these sheep. We've got some different kind of fleeces on them. I chose to go with the ewe I thought the massive pair of a cover. She's really long.
Pair yearling ewes on the Cordales, please. Placing on the Cordale yearling ewe class, first place goes to Craig, 2437, Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois. Second place to DDF 2535, Dewdrop Farm, Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois. Third place to Ansley Mendenhall, Sheridan, Indiana. Fourth place to Ansley Mendenhall. Fifth place, Rebecca Bull, Indianapolis, Indiana. Sixth place, Rebecca Bull, Indianapolis, Indiana. Seventh place, first in Kentucky, Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky, with W.M. Champ. Eighth place, second in Kentucky, to Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky, with W.M. Blossom. And ninth place, third in Kentucky, Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky.
Well, I know it's the last day of the fair and people are running out of gas, but if you're standing ringside, let's give a good round of applause here for our Hampshire breed exhibitors. Really good ewe show. Not a lot of numbers, of course, but I do think that there's a lot of quality here in all the classes that we've gotten to see in the divisions respectively. out of that older division, I think that's a really tall, big outline, late maturing ewe that's nice in terms of her pattern and hind leg structure. I don't know if that one necessarily comes accompanied with the right kind of just skeletal width and dimension there through the center portion of her body, as I'd like to see. For as big boned and as big footed as she is, I'm hesitant on calling that one as powerful as some may perceive her. But I do like her extension. I like her silhouette. I want to smoothen her up there just a nickel in terms of her hip loin hookup. The young, the late ewe lamb, I think that one's silhouette and just a body volume and proportionality from the side, not only is that one probably just a nickel bit fresher, but then you throw in the fact that one's head and neck shape and female quality just really grabs your attention. When she props up and looks like that, I think that's a really, really high quality female. If you're going to put something on your Christmas list to maybe add to that particular female, you could stouten her up just a little bit in terms of her hind leg. I think that's getting awfully nitpicky. The one that was reserved in that particular division, really round in terms of her rib cage, athletic in her body shape, big out the back side of her shoulder. I think that one, again, with all the power and mass that she has up high and being extremely strong there in terms of her top line, just gets a little bit frailer at the ground, needs to be just a nickel bit square there in terms of her knee. But two really, really exceptionally high quality ewe lambs out of that late ewe lamb division. For me, I'm a quality guy first, and to me, the most complete one with the most quality always will get the nod in my book. The late ewe lamb will go ahead and be your champion. We drop in that reserve, and again, I think they're very complementary in terms of their type and kind. The older ewes a little taller, a little bit more extended, and again, there's probably just a little bit more length in general in that particular female. On the other hand, we've got a bulkier, more powerful ewe that just reads a nickel more athletic in terms of their body shape. The one, in my opinion, that just hits me harder will be go ahead and be the reserve ewe lamb. Congratulations to them.
For our Slickshorn Hampshire show, our junior champion ewe was out of the late or March and later born ewe lamb class, Campbell, Corbin, and Clark Coyle, Danville, Kentucky, with Terradice 26-127. That animal went on to become our grand champion ewe. The reserve junior champion came out of the February born class of Slickshorn ewe lambs, Jude Parker, Franklin, Indiana, with 24166. That animal then became the reserve grand champion ewe. The grand champion ewe was also our Kentucky champion ewe, Campbell, Corbin, and Clark Coyle, Terradice 26127. Next class will be pen of four lambs for the Hampshires. Placing on the pen of four lambs, placing over here on the senior ewe lamb class, first place goes to Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois, with Dewdrop Farm 2543. Second place to Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois, with Craig 2547. Third, Rebecca Bull, Indianapolis, Indiana. And fourth, Rebecca Bull, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Your automatic champion, your premier exhibitors and champion pin of 4 over here on your Hampshire side, composed of the champion ram and the champion ewe, consistently presented, consistent there in terms of quality and immaculate there in just the way that they come to us today. Congratulations to that program on a really nice set of sheep.
Placing on the pin of 4 for the Hampshire show, first place and winner of the Premier Exhibitor Award is Campbell, Corbin, and Clark Coyle, Danville, Kentucky. That does conclude our Hampshire show. Now we're ready to go into Border Cheviots. Placing on the early born junior ewe lamb class for the Cordales, first place to Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois, with Craig 2603. Second, first in Kentucky, Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky, with W.M. Flower. Third, second in Kentucky, Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky, with W.M. Peaches.
Over back here, getting things cooking on your Cheviot side. A really stout-skulled, big-footed one that goes ahead and leads things off. Love that one's head and neck presence up front. A long-bodied sheep that handles square and large there over his loin, excuse me. Stout in terms of his hip, like the set of his hind leg, appropriate there in his testicular descent. If anything, I'd maybe like to see him just track a little squarer and truer to the ground as he turns and goes away from me, but a really high-quality single entry that I think can withstand some competition. Congratulations to that program on a high-quality single entry.
For our Cordales, your next class will be pair of ewe lambs. Placing on the late-born Junior ewe lamb class for the Cordales, first place to Craig, 2613, Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois. Second place to Craig, 2616, also Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois.
Back over here on the Cheviot side, I think another high-quality single entry from his hip forward. I think that one's presence and the way that he runs uphill is extremely good. Bold in terms of his ribs, stout in terms of his rack. Probably just a nickel more lower twist and stifle in this particular Ram Lamb than the one that we previously discussed. From his hip back in terms of his structural organization, he wants to get just a little bit rounder there in terms of his dock. Gives maybe just a little bit more awkward and with the extra set to the use of his hind leg. Maybe like to clean him up there just at the base of his chest, a nickel. But I do think that one still has a world of good from hip forward. A lot of presence in that particular buck. Congratulations to those exhibitors.
Placing on the Border Cheviot yearling ram class, first place went to Boilermaker, 1502, Claire Von Baron, Stewardson, Illinois. Placing on the January Ram Lamb class for the Border Cheviots, first place, Rinker, 2824, Claire Von Baron, Stewardson, Illinois. Now showing March and later born Ram Lambs, March and later born Ram Lambs for the Border Cheviots. Placing on the pair of ewe lambs for the Cordale show, first to Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois. Second place, Rebecca Bull, Indianapolis, Indiana. And third to Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky. Champion ewe for the Cordale show goes to the first place senior ewe lamb, Dewdrop Farm 2543, Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois. Second reserve champion, first in the yearling ewe class, Craig 2437, also Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois.
Single entry Cheviot buck over here, and again, a very loose, flexible, nice constructed one that I think is very loose and limber off both ends of his skeleton. Like that one's just natural neck attachment and presence there in the angle of his shoulder and front knee. Again, could maybe square him up in terms of his toes. He wants to splay out just a nickel. A sheep, again, that I'd probably like to modify just a smidge in terms of his rear foot shape and settle him down in his loin. But a really long-bodied one that comes with a world of good there through its front 1/3. Congratulations to that single entry.
For our Border Cheviots, our March and later born class of Ram Lambs, first place, Rinker 2826, Toe Tag, Claire Von Barons, Stewardson, Illinois. Now ready to show for Junior Champion Ram. We'll follow that by pair Ram Lambs, and then show for overall Champion Ram. In our Cordale ring, we're ready for pen of 4 lambs, pen of 4 lambs.
We've got a senior Ram Lamb spectating over here during our junior Ram drive. I think they're two of them, again, that are very complementary. The one out of that first class, a little bit bulkier, a little bit wider, a little bit more opened up there, and just bolder, more productive in terms of the turn of his rib cage and top. Still comes with a balanced and proportional look there from the side. I like his foot shape and his front feet placement just a nickel bit better than the sheep that was out of the first class, or out of the second class. Out of the second class, we've probably got an upgrade in terms of length and extension. He's a little bit more juvenile in terms of his head and skull feature. I like the flexibility and basic joint work and testicular development of this buck. Maybe just not as organized in terms of his top line and the way that he's assembled there from the side. I like the one out of the first class to go ahead and be our champion, one out of the second class to be reserved. Congratulations again to those Cheviot exhibitors.
For our Border Cheviot, our junior champion ram goes to the first place January Ram Lamb, Rinker 2824, Claire Von Baron, Stewardson, Illinois. The reserve junior champion was our first in the March and later born Ram Lamb class, Rinker 2826, Toe Tag, Claire Von Baron's, Stewardson, Illinois.
Hard to beat a pair of champion and reserve buck lambs over here on the Cheviot side. You've already known my description, and again, I think for as different as their strengths are, they're still very consistent in terms of just their frame and the consistency and quality that they bring to the table. Very high quality pair there. Congratulations to that outfit on a high quality set of buck lambs.
Placing on the Border Cheviot pair Ram Lambs, first place to Claire Von Baron, Stewardson, Illinois. For the Kentucky Champion ewe, it was the first place Kentucky animal in the early born junior ewe lamb class for the Corriedales. W.M. Flower, Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky. Best fleece ewe in the Corriedale show was our reserve champion overall out of the yearling ewe class, which was our reserve champion ewe, Craig 2437, Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois.
Again, as we round out the Border Cheviot Ram side, I think, again, breaking down our division winners, our senior Ram up front is just got so much presence and length and extension, and then you couple in or tack on the performance to boot. I think that one's really, really nice, and just his natural neck posture, and again, the attachment at the top side of his shoulder just gives him an extra shot of presence. Hind leg posture is extremely attractive. If anything, and I'm going to get really nitpicky on him, maybe like to just see him accommodated with a shot more pin width from behind and even him up in his testicular descent, but that's getting awfully nitpicky on a very fresh, highly presented one. The one that was out of our Ram Lamb class, or junior Ram Lamb, I think again is maybe just a nickel bit cleaner in the way that he's presented in regards to his lines, his top line strength, and his underlying quality. I think that one's extremely bold rib and big top. Again, another one that I think's got a world of good in regards to dimension and power. Maybe just doesn't hit me with the same striking image. Maybe just a little bit thicker there at the base of his shoulder and neck relative to another one out here. And a very respectable second there in that division, or reserve in that division, with a lot of length and extension and flexibility. Really, really good set of them here. Congratulations to these exhibitors. I like the older buck to be champion. I like the younger buck to be reserved. Congratulations once again.
For our Corriedale show, the class of pin of 4 lambs, first place to Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois. Second, Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky. Placing on the flock class, first place to Dylan Craig, St. Joseph, Illinois. Second, Rebecca Bull, Indianapolis, Indiana. Third, Taylor Reinhardt, LaGrange, Kentucky. Our premier exhibitor for the Corriedale show was Dylan Craig of St. Joseph, Illinois. For our Border Cheviot show, our grand champion ram went to the senior champion ram, which was out of the yearling ram class. Boilermaker 1502, Claire Von Behrens, Stewartson, Illinois. The reserve grand champion was our junior champion from the January Ram Lamb class, Claire Von Behrens, Stewartson, Illinois, with Rinker 2824. Now ready for Rambouillets. Rambouillets in the wool ring. We need yearling rams to the ring, please. We've got one entry. Now ready for Border Cheviot yearling ewes. Border Cheviot yearling ewes to the ring, please.
Kicking things off over here in the Border Cheviot show, the used side of things. I think we've got a really fresh, highly quality, big outlined, nice class winner to kick things off. I love that one, just cleanliness of chest and how tidy she is at the top side of her head, neck, and face there, really long and level in terms of her hip, and still has more than enough body volume to go ahead and accommodate it. Perhaps the most impressive thing about her as she gets out and goes, I know sometimes these fitted frame sheep wool can kind of make everything be a little bit distorted in motion, yet that one is probably as good and true and square in terms of her foot shape and flexibility at the ground as one that's came through the ring this morning. Very, very good in terms of structural integrity. The ewe that comes out in second, I think, is bold-bodied and moderate. I think she's a broody maternal ewe without a shadow of a doubt, with a nice posture to her hind leg. She's a little bit more mature about her neck and breastplate. That one's got just a little bit more condition on her. Doesn't necessarily progress back to a big enough pin set to match all the body volume from there forward. Really good pair of them there. Congratulations to those Cheviot ewe exhibitors.
For our Rambouillet show, our champion ram was the senior ram lamb, and that was also best fleeced ram. Our reserve champion was the yearling ram. The yearling ram class first place to In-Body Brothers Rambouillets, Gennaro, Ohio, and In-Body 2502. The Senior Ram Lamb class, first place to In-Body Brothers Rambouillet's, Genera, Ohio, with In-Body F2564. And in the late-born Junior Ram Lamb class, first place went to In-Body Brothers Rambouillet's, Genera, Ohio, with In-Body 2631. For the Border Cheviots in our yearling U class, first place went to Rinker 2796, Claire Von Baron, Stewartson, Illinois. Second place to Spildy 6251, Claire Von Baron, Stewartson, Illinois. Placing on the pair of yearling U class, first place, Claire Von Baron, Stewartson, Illinois. Placing on the pair of Ram Lamb class for the Rambouillets, first place to In-Body Brothers Rambouillet's, Genera, Ohio. Now showing yearling ewes for the Rambouillets. Yearling ewes are in the ring. And for our Cheviots, our class that's in the ring is Senior Ewe Lambs.
Senior ewe lamb single entry. She is extremely long and elegant in terms of her head and neck. I love that one from hip forward in terms of her top line composure and the way that she blends from her shoulder back. Maybe a little knock knee, maybe a little splay footed, a little round there in terms of her hip and awkward, and with a shot more extra set to her hind leg. But I do think that's a long-bodied, long measuring female with a big loin in her. Congratulations on a high-quality single entry over here on the Cheviot side. Well, back over here on the Cheviot side, as we get into your senior U division champion, I think the one out of the first class, just a lot of presence, a lot of quality and volume in that particular female. She's long-bodied, she's big outline, she's great in terms of just capacity and maternal look. I like that one, structure and lower joints as good as anything that's came through today. And then just so seamless in the way that she blends there from the side. A respectable second in that class that I think had a lot of body volume, a lot of moderation, and again, just fleshing ease if you want to get down to the nuts and bolts of being a low-maintenance brood ewe. I think that she hits you just a little bit easier there. A little bit just heavier in terms of her condition. She's deeper in terms of her head, neck, and chest. Need to make that one just a little bit more attractive in terms of her dock and hip length. The one that was a single entry out of this last class, really long and extended up front, just extended in terms of her pattern in general. A big loins ewe that just needs to be reorganized in terms of her hip and rump construction. Need to see that one more aesthetically pleasing in the set and bend of her hind leg. Need to see her toe straighter ahead up front. For me, I've got an easy champion. It boils down a little bit closer here for reserve. I like a class winner out of our older class to go ahead and win this particular division. Congratulations to them.
For our Border Cheviot, our senior champion ewe went to the first place yearling ewe, Rinker 2796, Claire Von Baron, Stewartson, Illinois. The reserve senior champion was the first place senior ewe lamb, Rinker 2817, Claire Von Baron, Stewartson, Illinois. Over on the Rambouillet ring, in our yearling U class, first place went to In-Body 2507, In-Body Brothers Rambouillet's, Genera, Ohio. Second place to InBody F2464, InBody Brothers Ramblaise, Genera, Ohio. And in the senior ULAM class, first place to InBody F2561, InBody Brothers Ramblaise, Genera, Ohio. Placing on the early-born junior ULAM class for the Ramblaise, first place to InBody 2601, InBody Brothers Ramblaise, Genera, Ohio. Now showing late-born junior ULAMs. That'll be followed by our selection of junior champion, or pardon me, our showing of the pair of ULAMs. Pair ULAMs will follow this late-born junior ULAM class single entry.
Really high quality single entry again over here on the Cheviot side. A smooth blending, up-headed, attractive view that's got a world of good in regards to head and neck and face shape up front. Love that one's lower joints and the flexibility that she gets out and strides with from the side. If you wanted to level her out of her hip, I could definitely agree with you on making that modification. She gets a little bit uncoordinated, a little crisscrossy there down at the ground as she gets out and travels. I think it's a product of being so loose in terms of her structure and angles. A really high quality single entry that's fresh in her condition and honest in her body shape. Congratulations to that single entry ULAM.
Placing on the Border Cheviot January ULAM class, first place to Moore 331, Lady Moore, shown by Claire Von Baron Stewardson, Illinois.
Just a really fresh, honest single entry that the crew brings us here. I like this one's neck and face shape, both the stoutness of her head and the way that it attaches into the top side of her shoulder there. I like that one in just terms of her front end assembly in general. Really fresh and right and true in terms of her rib cage, bold in the arch and curvature of her center body. A little round in terms of her hip, and again, not being as fitted as maybe as a couple of the others out here that we've seen. It kind of throws you for a loop, but still a good, basic, functional female. I think's got a world of quality there from hip forward. Congratulations once again on a high-quality Cheviot female.
Placing on the March class of ULAMs for the Border Cheviots, first to Rinker 2828, Claire Von Baron Stewardson, Illinois.
Really high quality pair of them over here on the Cheviot side. One of them with a little bit more bulk and spread. The other one with a shot more presence and probably just a nickel bit better blending. Just naturally there for what you see is what you get. I think they're both good in terms of their basic foundation and structural build. High quality pair of them there. Congratulations again to that crew on a nice set of Cheviot ewes.
Placing on the Rambouillet Championship drive, our champion ewe went to the first place senior ewe lamb, in-body F2561, in-body Brothers Rambouillets, Genera, Ohio. And that animal was also our best fleeced ewe. The reserve champion goes to the first place yearling ewe, in-body 2507, in-body Brothers Rambouillets, Genera, Ohio. For the Cheviots, first place in the the pair of ewe lambs goes to Claire Von Barron, Stewardson, Illinois.
Really high quality pair out here for your junior ewe lamb drive. I think the ewe up front out of the first class, just a shot more body volume and capacity, and I think it's accentuated by a little bit longer fleece, of course. That one's got a big loin, a smooth look to her, and I love her head and neck and just female quality and the refinement that she's got through her front 1/3. I said she could be a little bit more coordinated down at the ground, but I still love the looseness, flexibility, and stride of her lower joints. The one that was out of the second class really extended, probably just a shot bulkier there in terms of her width of chest, the base of her forerib, and out the back side of her shoulder. That one handles extremely good in terms of her body turn. Maybe not necessarily as proportional as the one up front. She needs to be just a nickel cleaner about her breastbone, maybe a little bit leveler and square there out of her hip. An excellent pair of them. I like the full fleece to be your champion. I like the slick one to be reserved. Congratulations to those exhibitors.
For the Border Cheviots, our junior champion is the first place January ewe lamb, Moore 331, Lady Moore, Claire Von Barron, Stewardson, Illinois. The reserve junior champion was first in the March and later ewe lamb class, Rinker 2828, Claire Von Barron, Stewardson, Illinois. Now ready to show for overall champion and reserve champion ewe.
Excellent set of Cheviots. I think very well represented across the breed. Even with the difference that we have here, I think that there's quality regardless of what you placed where. Out of that first, the yearling division, I think a big, broody, maternal ewe. Love that one's flexibility and just her sheer athleticism at the ground. That one's ability to stride off both ends of her skeleton is effortless for a really high-quality yearling female. Natural presence and just neck set and posture there from the side. A good pattern. Big outline sheep that I think just reads with a lot of quality. Reserve in that division was long in terms of her skeletal makeup, like that one again, just in terms of her length and neck set up front. Maybe a little bit flatter, a little bit hollower there in terms of her rib and body in comparison to the one that wins that division. She needs to be square on her front feet and maybe a little more aesthetically pleasing in the set of her hip. Out of the ewe lamb, the junior ewe lamb division, I think a just very moderate, boxy, bold-made kind of a female that's broody in terms of her body shape, square in terms of her top and out through her hip. Carries that muscle shape deep down through her lower twist and stifle. We talked about her needing to be just a nickel coordinated more so at the ground. And then the one that was reserved in that division, I think, is round-bodied. I think she's extended. Big bone, big footed ewe that reads with plenty of dimension and presence through her front end. Maybe just needs to be just a little bit leveler, a little bit more attractive there in the build of her hind leg. In my opinion, I think it's pretty square and fair and done in my mind. I like the champion out of the senior division to go ahead and be your overall ewe. I like the junior ewe lamb to be your reserve. Congratulations to those exhibitors. Let's give those Cheviots a big round of applause.
For the Cheviot Show, our grand champion ewe was our senior champion ewe out of the yearling ewe class, Rinker 2796, Claire Von Baron, Stewartson, Illinois. The reserve grand champion was our junior champion out of the January ewe lamb class, Claire Von Baron, Stewartson, Illinois, with Moore 331, Lady Moore. For the Ramblais, placing on the young flock class, first place to In-Body Brothers Ramblais, Genera, Ohio. Winner of the Premier Exhibitor Award, In-Body Brothers Ramblais, Genera, Ohio. For the Border Cheviots, we are now ready for Pen of Four Lambs, followed by the flock class.
High quality pinafore over here on the Cheviot side. A lot of consistency there, both in terms of frame and just look and presence there in terms of pattern and proportionality. Really, really high quality set of them there. Congratulations again to that outfit.
Placing on the Pen of Four Lambs for the Border Cheviots, first place to Claire Von Baron, Stewartson, Illinois. Now ready to begin our Lincoln show in the wool ring. We need yearling rams to the ring, please.
Get over here, Premier Exhibitor, or our best flock for the Cheviot show. Again, you've got my champion ewe and ram, and pretty much all my seconds in there too. So really high quality set of them there. Congratulations to that program on exhibiting a very high quality and immaculately presented set of sheep. Congratulations and my compliments to them.
Placing on the flock class for the Border Cheviots and winner of the Premier Exhibitor Award for the Border Cheviots at this year's Kentucky State Fair is Claire Von Baron, Stewartson, Illinois. Oxford exhibitors, it is your turn in the ring. So we need Oxford, January-born Ram Lambs. Oxford, January-born Ram Lambs to the ring, please. For the Lincoln Show, in our yearling ram class, first place goes to Hooker 492, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. In our senior ram lamb class, first place to Hooker 513, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. In our early born junior ram lamb class, first to Hooker 518, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. And in our late born junior ram lamb class, first to Hooker 533, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. Champion ram went to our senior ram lamb class winner, Hooker 513, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. Our reserve champion to our yearling ram class winner, Hooker 492, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. And best fleece went to the senior ram lamb, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana, with Hooker 513.
Over here back getting things rolling with the Oxford side. I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt, and I'm well aware that he's kind of walking with a little bit of a limp. But I do think that standing still, there's a clear edge and quality on the buck that goes ahead and leads off. Just his cleanliness of lines and his hind leg posture, his silhouette there standing from the side. Is he the most massive? Could you fill him out just a little bit better there in terms of his flank? 100% could buy that argument. But I do think that that's a good-looking, level-patterned one that's got a world of good in regards to quality. He just needs to settle down and get used to his new shoes. The one that comes out in seconds, long-bodied and flexible. I like the slight edge in terms of performance and lateness of maturity that he carries. Just a little bit rounder, a little bit plainer there in terms of his hip and hind leg construction. He's a nickel deeper at the plane of his chest and at the point of his shoulder, but a big-footed, rugged, stout-testicled buck that I think's got a lot of use and utility. Congratulations to both of those exhibitors. Let's give them a big round of applause.
For the January Ram Lamb class, for the Oxfords, first place and first in Kentucky to Ryan Halligan, Winchester, Kentucky, with AA 2646. Second place to Chloe and Adrian Decker, Vincennes, Indiana, with Winning Ways Sheep Farm, 2625.139. Now ready for March and later born ram lambs. Placing on the yearling U class for the Lincolns, first place to Hooker 493, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. Second place to Hooker 488, also Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. Placing on the pair yearling U's, first place, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana.
Really nice single entry again, and I wish that he'd stand still. The young ladies wishing that the buck would just cooperate just a nickel bit better. I think there's a lot of quality in that one's front end assembly, his elevation and extension, lateness of maturity, very youthful and juvenile in terms of his head and neck shape. I like that buck's length of body. Flexible and useful in terms of his feet and legs, square and even in his testicular descent. Could level him out in terms of his dock, give him a shot more mass and clean him up just a nickel there at his breastbone. Really high quality single entry once again. Congratulations to those Oxford breeders.
Placing on the March and later born Ram Lamb class for the Oxfords, first place to Red Cloud 2631, Chloe and Adrian Decker, Vincennes, Indiana. We're now showing for junior champion and reserve as well as champion and reserve for the Oxfords. For our Lincoln show, first place in the senior ewe lamb class goes to Hooker 507, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. Placing on the early born junior ewe lamb class, first place Hooker 520, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. Now ready for late born junior ewe lambs.
Back over here on your Oxford side as we get into selecting your champion ram and ram lamb. There's a lot of champions here within this protective set that we'll sort out of this particular group of them. The one out of that first division, again, I think his angles read right. I think his silhouette's the highest quality. I do think that sheep proportions and patterns with as much just look and presence as anything out here. I really struggle in the back of my mind, whether foot trimming or whatnot, using a buck that's out here limping on his front feet like that. I gave him the benefit of the doubt in class. I'm still debating on how far I just want to take that. The true stockman in me really struggles using something that's limping out of their front end. The one that was reserved in that division's long-bodied and big outline, smooth in terms of his construction, flexible and useful in terms of his lower limbs and joints. I like that one in terms of his lateness and maturity. A little shorter hipped, a little longer pastern, but other than that, I think a pretty useful buck. The one that was out of our junior ram lamb division, I think is extended. I think is fresh and honest in terms of his condition, youthful about his front end, like that one's head and just the proportionality of its face. A really nice, high-quality buck that's big in terms of his foot and forearm, and a relatively attractive hind leg posture standing from the side. Could level him out in terms of his dock. It boils down to our two class champion or division champions. I like the one and the security of structure found in the champion out of the junior ram class. Senior yearling or senior ram will go ahead and be reserved. Congratulations to both of those exhibitors.
For our Oxford show, our champion, junior champion ram, and also our champion ram overall goes to the first place March and later born ram lamb. Red Cloud 2631, Chloe and Adrian Decker, Vincennes, Indiana. The reserve champion ram and the Kentucky champion ram was first in the January ram lamb class. AA 2646, Ryan Halligan, Winchester, Kentucky. Now ready to move into yearling ewes. Yearling ewes, please. For our Lincoln class of late-born junior ewe lambs, first to Lean 2618. Jamie Dietz, Rupert, West Virginia. Second place to Hooker, 527, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. Placing on the pair of ewe lambs, first place went to Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. Placing on the Oxford pair of ram lambs, first place went to Chloe and Adrian Decker, Vincennes, Indiana. For our Lincoln show, our champion ewe was first place yearling ewe, and that was also our best fleeced ewe in the Lincoln show, Hooker 493, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. Reserve champion was our second place yearling ewe, Hooker 488, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. Placing on the pen of 4 lambs for the Lincolns, first place, Barry Hooker, Covington, Indiana. And placing on the young flock class, Barry Hooker, first place, Barry's from Covington, Indiana. That does conclude our Lincoln show.
Very complimentary trio, I think, on the top end of this particular class. And, depending on your opinions ringside, maybe you could shift some things around. I hope that we could all agree, though, that this one's silhouette and proportionality from the side is undeniably the best and the highest quality. That one's neck set, that one's top line, hind leg posture, and hip assembly is absolutely on point. You could set her back in her knee just a smidge, and drop her in her flank if you wanted to. But I think that one's got a world of good as far as presence and proportionality from the side. You want to talk about a bulky, broody, powerful kind of ewe that comes out in second. I think that this one's body shape and mass from her foregrip back is absolutely awesome. And the set of her hind legs standing is really, really nice as well. The issues start to probably just become more apparent through her front end, whether it's because we've got a little bit shorter showman at the helm, or whether I think it's maybe just a little bit longer bladed ewe in general. That one's shoulder angle, her chest, her breastbone has to be modified, laid back up and into her just a little bit better to help her go with just a little bit more presence up front. And then she just gets a little uncoordinated, doesn't necessarily put that nice looking hind leg from the side standing into use as well in motion. A really late maturing, a really long-bodied, a big outlined ewe that I love her top line there standing and her neck attachment standing from the side. That one's silhouette from her legs up, I think can absolutely add a world of good and presence and quality in that particular female. She's a little frail to match her stature. She's a little narrower there at the ground. I think she funnels and tapers to her hip and to the base of her stifle, but a really high-quality female there standing in third. Another broody-bodied maternal one here that comes out next, a ewe that I think's body type and body shape reads with just ease and productive look. She's just a little bit more timid, a little bit more restricted there in terms of the use of her feet and rear legs. That ewe just never wants to pick them up and put them down the way that she needs to. A little lower tying female that's deeper in terms of the set of her shoulder, a little bit more awkward in the use of her hind leg. A really sleek necked, a really hard touching one. Obviously a little bit different here, adjusting your eyes with a slick sheared ewe. I think her front end assembly and the elevation that she has through her front end, the extension and refinement of her head and neck is very good. To me, it's when I step in behind that ewe that her hind leg probably becomes the most problematic of this set. She wants to roll and bow her hock, and that ewe again probably just needs to drop in her flank to help her proportion just a nickel bit better there from the side. 5 really good ewes. Congratulations to those Oxford exhibitors. If you're sitting ringside, let's keep the go and give them a big round of applause.
Placing on the Oxford yearling ewe class, first in Kentucky, to Reed Family Second place to Red Cloud 2532, Philip Brome, Washington, Indiana. Third place to Chloe and Adrian Decker, Vincennes, Indiana. Fourth place, Chloe and Adrian Decker, Vincennes, Indiana. Fifth, second in Kentucky, to Halligan, 5022, Ryan Halligan, Winchester, Kentucky. Now ready for pair of yearling ewes. That'll be followed then by our January class. Our class winner, Reed Family Oxford's 2517 of Ryan Halligan, was our senior champion and Kentucky senior champion ewe. Our reserve senior champion was second in that class of yearling ewes, Red Cloud 2532, Philip Brome, Washington, Indiana.
Just consistency, I think, is probably the name of the game between these two particular pairs of sheep. I like the ones to my left to be champion, the ones over here to be reserve in this particular set of them. A little bit bigger outlined, a little bit bigger bodied and broodier appearing ones. And then again, just in the back of my mind, sorting pairs and pins, making it as consistent as possible. We've got the extreme of winning the class. We have the one that I put fifth in class. I'll stand behind my decision. Over here to my left's your champion. Over here to my right's reserve. Congratulations to those exhibitors.
For our pair yearling ewe class, first place goes to Chloe and Adrian Decker, Vincennes, Indiana. Second place, Ryan Halligan, Winchester, Kentucky. Now ready to move into January ewe lambs. Oxford January ewe lambs to the ring, please. If you happen to be around the ring and you stop by to see the pups, don't forget to stop by and see the old guy that's turning 70 this week. Jim Robertson will be 70, a longtime exhibitor here at the Kentucky State Fair. Happy birthday, Jim.
I'm going to leave them standing the way they came in. I think, there's some shuffle and sort amongst this trio of ewes. The one up front, just the best in terms of her lines there, standing from the side. I do think that her top line composure and just her bottom line balance is easily the best in her chest relative to her flank. And then you step in behind the sheep and she's the squarest out through her dock and hip. Is she a little bit longer bladed and a little bit narrower based? 100%. Could absolutely agree with that. I think that she looks a nickel frailer because she doesn't have as much leg wool as in comparison to her contemporaries. I want to relax her in terms of her rear pastern, just see her get out in stride with a little bit more athleticism. The ewe that comes out in second, the clear leader in terms of performance. She's the longest body, the latest maturing, the biggest outlined, and the highest volume. She's a little deeper there in terms of her chest and sternum. Need to see her better in terms of her neck attachment. She gets a little bit plainer there in terms of the hip, in terms of her hip and the use of her hind leg. The ewe that rounds out the class is extremely long in terms of her neck and how she ties it again into the top of her shoulder. I like the turn of her upper rib cage and the dimension that she carries out through her hip and down into her stifle. Probably the stoutest featured ewe, or the second stoutest featured one of this particular set. She wants to splay out up front. She's a little rounder about her shoulder. She gets higher in her hip and wants to run downhill. Three of them that I think are very respectable projects here in this particular division of Oxfords. Congratulations to all those breeding exhibitors.
Placing on the Oxford January ewe lamb class, first in open, first in Kentucky, to LA Farm F 052614, Ryan Halligan, Winchester, Kentucky. Second place to Winning Ways Sheep Farm 26B1679, Chloe and Adrian Decker, Vincennes, Indiana. And third to Chloe and Adrian Decker, Vincennes, Indiana. Now ready for February born ewe lambs.
Skinny, skinny, skinny February ewe lamb that I think's extremely elegant and level and proportional in terms of her pattern from the side. She's as good in her bottom side symmetry as anything that's walked through the ring here for the Oxford breed. I think that one is so elegant and refined and feminine about her head and neck shape. Love her hind leg posture. Again, she needs time to mature and come along with a little bit more body shape and maybe just take a little bit of wool there off the end of her dock, but a really, really high quality female. We'll see how she stacks up in division. Wish she probably wasn't as tender-footed as well as she gets out and travels.
Placing on the February ewe lamb class, first place to Apple 2615, Ryan Halligan, Winchester, Kentucky. And that was also first in Kentucky on that individual.
A really feminine, late maturing female, so extended in terms of the length of her neck, and I love that one's just femininity and refinement about her head and face quality. That one's dead strong in terms of her top line. As she gets out and goes, she maybe wants to drop her dock a little bit more awkward in the way that she handles maybe a nickel uncoordinated hind leg. Like to set her back in the angle of her knee and just push up her chest just a smidge. But I think that's a really high quality female. Going to be a really nice division here in your Oxford show. Congratulations to those exhibitors.
Placing in the March and later born ewe lamb class, first in open, first in Kentucky to Red Cloud 2630, Ryan Halligan, Winchester, Kentucky. Now ready for pair of ewe lambs. Pair ewe lambs, please.
we get them settled out here, size and stature in your pair of ewe lambs. I think my two class winners, regardless of being class winners, just size up and look a little bit more consistent in terms of their type and kind and breed quality. Really like those females' refinement, femininity, and pattern. The other ones have a shot more performance and just body volume. Just need to reorganize them from a skeletal perspective, make them a little bit more aesthetically organized there from the side. Two really good sets of sheep. Congratulations to those respective breeding programs. As we get out here in your ewe lamb drive, again, I think our three class winners resemble an immense amount of quality and a very respectable second out of our oldest division. Out of this first class, I think a very strong topped, very level pattern female that's nice in terms of her hip and hind leg assembly standing, really clean in terms of her lines and angles. I wish she had the extra leg wool as a couple others in here to accommodate her and just help her balance in proportion a nickel bit better from the side. That one's rib shape and body volume is very, very good. She just looks maybe a little pencil-legged relative to all the size and stature that she has. A really broody, big-bodied female that was second to her in that class. Like her stoutness, like her foot and bone size. Just need to see that one run uphill better and be leveler out of her dock. Just a little bit more coordinated in the use of her hock and rear pastern. The ewe that came out of that second class, I'll be honest with you, I'm not really good at hiding my emotions. I think that one's got as many up and out there pieces as any of our class winners out here amongst this trio. She is green, 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 and I think that she'll get better with time. I hope it's a foot trimming thing that's causing her to stumble and be a little bit more timid there at the surface. Love her extension, love her neck set. Blade length is as progressive as anything in this particular set of them, and it's still laid in extremely flat. Her shoulder angle and her shoulder set is just really, really nice. Like her hind leg posture, maybe like to give her just a little bit bigger loin edge. The ewe out of our youngest class, extremely extended. Like the strength of her top line right in behind her shoulder. She's just a little bit more awkward and not necessarily as coordinated. And her lower joint work over in her knee splays out up front. Little extra set to her hind leg, and she's crashing down on her back pastern just a nickel. Maybe like to shorten her up there in terms of her toes and level her out of her hip. I think a really good set of them. Just depends on where you want to lay your priorities. I think both of them extremely good sheep up here out of the older division. I'll set the microphone down, take a second look at them one more time, go out here and select your champion division. But again, if you would please, let's give these Oxford exhibitors a big round of applause.
In our Oxford show, our junior champion ewe goes to first place out of the February ewe lamb class, Apple 2615, Ryan Halligan, Winchester, Kentucky, and that's Kentucky junior champion as well. The reserve junior champion was first in the January class of ewe lambs, LA Farm F 052614, Ryan Halligan, Winchester, Kentucky.
Lots of differences here within the Oxford breed to evaluate, but I still think our respective division winners have an immense amount of quality. The one out of the older division, I love that one's lines. I love her top line and her hind leg posture. Just her rear leg construction in general is very, very good. And then when you get her head up and forward like that, she is just beautiful in terms of her face and head character. Maybe like to shorten her in her blade or drop her in her flank if you want to be ultra critical of her. But I think that's a really really nice one. The one that was second in that division, or reserve, in that division, extremely broody, big-bodied and high volume, like that one. And from a performance-driven and power perspective, maybe just doesn't operate with the same kind of athleticism, doesn't have necessarily the same elevation and refinement through her front 1/3 as the ewe that was champion there in that respective set of them. Out of the younger division, I think we've got a very elevated, youthful-looking, good patterned ewe that's, again, just maybe a little bit more timid in terms of the way that she comes to the surface. Big bone, big-footed, like that one, in her level pattern and the set and attractive build of her hind leg. Neck attachment's very, very good. I love that one's shoulder shape as well. She's not necessarily got as much bloom and fill to her in retrospect to a couple others out here, but I think time's going to be that one's friend as long as she can just get settled down and acclimated to being there in the ring. The one that was reserve in that division, I think, is bigger bodied. I think she's bolder ribbed and stouter hipped. She's a little bit frailer at the ground, and she's a little bit deeper in terms of her chest and sternum relative to her contemporary. I thought that was a very close pair that, you know, had a lot of give and take. With that being said, we've got a definitive winner. I'm going to go ahead and select your champion and take a second look at him for reserve. But again, once again, congratulations to these Oxford breeders and exhibitors on a very high-quality show. Standing ringside, let's please show our appreciation for these prospective producers.
Grand Champion ewe and Kentucky Grand Champion ewe goes to our Senior Champion ewe out of the yearling ewe class, Reed Family Oxfords 2517, Ryan Halligan, Winchester, Kentucky. The Reserve Grand Champion was our Reserve Senior Champion out of the second place in the yearling ewe class, Red Cloud 2532, Philip Brome, Washington, Indiana.
As we get out here in your pin of four over here on the Oxford side, we've got one that's a little bit more uniform in terms of her size, stature, and presentation there. Love that one's proportionality. That set's proportionality and presentation and how they come together in regarding their silhouette standing. A couple of them coming up a little tender-footed there, and that's probably just something in the back of my mind. The other set's really performance-driven and a lot of dimension, a lot of body volume. Still a very functional, practical set that I think has a world of good. In my opinion, I'm going to stick with the quality basics. The one to my left will be champion. The one to my right will be reserve. Congratulations again to those Oxford exhibitors.
Placing on the pin of four lambs for the Oxfords, first place, Ryan Halligan, Winchester, Kentucky. Second place, Chloe and Adrian Decker, Vincennes, Indiana.
Again, we're maybe a little more up and down over here on our performance side. I do think that there's a lot of productivity, a lot of utility in that particular set of sheep. I like the consistency and the balance and symmetry over here in the set to my left. They'll be your champions. These will be reserved. Congratulations again on a really high quality Oxford show.
Placing on the young flock class for the Oxfords, first place, Ryan Halligan, and also winner of the Premier Exhibitor Award. Second place in flock, Chloe and Adrian Decker, Vincennes, Indiana. Now ready to move into our Shropshire show. First up in the Shropshires is Early Born Junior Ram Lambs. Early Born Junior Ram Lambs will be your first class in the Shropshires. Larkin Romines. Larkin Romines from Lexington, Kentucky. If you're here, we're ready for your animal in the ring, that junior ram lamb in the Shropshire Show. Larkin Romines. Final call for that ram. With no movement or activity, we'll go right on into Shropshire Yearling Ewes then. Shropshire Yearling Ewes. We have 2 entries in that class.
What a great pair to get kicked things off here in your Shropshire division. Young ladies, you up front, usually with that kind of power and rib shape behind their shoulder. They don't have that kind of look up front. This one's bottom side symmetry and balance, and the way that she kind of comes together from the side, I think is very, very nice. Extremely smooth blending you. Young lady does an excellent job of showcasing that one's just natural presence and top line strength. Love her hind leg posture and dimension from behind, and to be honest with you, she's got plenty of condition on her, but I don't think she's out of bounds in terms of flesh by any means. If anything, maybe give her a shot more bone to match everything else that she's got going on, but that's a pretty rock-solid female to go ahead and kick things off. The young man sheep that comes out in second, I think mimics some things of our class winner in terms of length and top line strength, the extension out of her front end. She is the upgrade in terms of foot bone and size and density there. A ewe that, in my opinion, as she gets out and travels, drops in her chest, cuts up in her flank, isn't near as athletic or coordinated there in the use of her hind leg, and she funnels to the base of her hip and stifle. 2 really, really good females. Congratulations to both of those exhibitors. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Placing on the yearling ewe class for the Shropshires, first place to Bryant, 25-062, Bell, Miley Williams, Pendleton, Indiana. Second place to Ellsbury, 25040, Ellie, Stetson Williams, Pendleton, Indiana. Now ready for early born junior ewe lambs. Early born junior ewe lambs, please.
Immaculately presented single entry that the young ladies bring us. Love this one's neck set and the way that she attaches it into the top of her shoulder. She's got an incredible hide and touch to her. I think that one shapes up really good out the back side of her shoulder and over her rack. She can maybe use a little bit bigger loin to match all the dimensions she's got from there forward. Probably my biggest disappointment is that one gets out and moves. I don't think that her angles necessarily read out of bounds by any means standing still. As she gets out and goes, she's just a little bit steeper in the angle of her shoulder, a little bit tighter in terms of her hip and hock. Wants to kick up in her spine ever so slightly and can throw her off. I think that she's extremely fresh, really good looking female from the side. I think structure's the biggest question on her in this particular instance. Congratulations to her. Let's give her a big round of applause.
Placing on the early born Junior ewe lamb class for the Shropshires, first place to Ellsbury Shimmer, Melanie Wilson, Hagerstown, Indiana. Next, we have late-born Junior ewe lambs. Late-born Junior ewe lambs to the ring, please. Ryan Halligan, you have an entry according to the books in this class. I don't know.
Good pair of them over here again on your Shropshire side. I'm not going to tell you that they're picture perfect, either of them necessarily from the profile. I think the young lady's ewe up front just kind of sets herself apart in motion. As that one gets out and travels, she's the most consistent and reliable in terms of her top line strength. Love that one set to her hip and hind leg, both the security and comfort that she travels in terms of her lower joints. You can shorten her in terms of her blade just ever so slightly, or drop her in her flank, take your pick, give her a shot bigger loin edge. But I think that one, to go along with all the other things that I like in terms of her structure's just got a shot more bloom on her. She reads a little nickel more show ready. The young man's ewe that comes out second, pencil thin in terms of her neck. I think that one probably reads just a nickel shorter in terms of her blade length, and maybe even a shot more progressive in her flank line. I like her top line there. As she gets out and goes, as soon as she takes a step, that one's just a little too straight in terms of her front end construction, too straight in terms of her knee and front foot. A little bit more cumbersome and awkward in the use of her hind leg and rear pastern. Need to see her settle in her spine and just proportion with a more consistent image. Two really nice ones there. Congratulations to those exhibitors. Let's keep the round of applause going for these Shropshire exhibitors.
Placing on the late-born Junior ewe lamb class for the Shropshire Show, first place goes to Land Run 894, Laney Miley Williams, Pendleton, Indiana. Second, first in Kentucky to CHCL G2676, Ryan Halligan, Winchester, Kentucky. Now showing for champion and reserve champion U.
Well, I know we've got a grand drive to get to in a Supreme here in just a few moments, but I wanted to take the time to thank you, meat, sheep, and breeding exhibitors over here on this side, for giving me the opportunity to be able to come out and evaluate today and yesterday. I hope that you know I gave you my honest opinion and that I had a lot of fun getting to come out here and evaluate something that not a lot of people get the chance to do, evaluating something at their own state fair. As a kid that grew up on these green shavings and getting to do this, it means an awful lot because it's not just any state fair, it's my state fair. So I thank you all for giving me high quality livestock to evaluate. I appreciate the professionalism and the respect of my opinion, and I hope that you know that I respect your perspective operations and what you do to get these sheep looking right and presented to me on a really good basis. There hasn't been a problem running the show. Everybody's been good and calm and collected. Just wanted to go ahead and show you my appreciation before everybody gets out of here. I know everybody's probably ready to load out and get going. Out of this older division, I think the young ladies' ewe is just a beast. That one's big bone, or excuse me, that one's big in terms of her chest. The one thing I want to modify her on her, she need to be a little bit bigger bone. I love that one's body and power and rib and presence. I don't care what species of livestock you're evaluating. If you can't do the basic things right, you can't be elite. That one does the basic things right and then does it with an extra look of quality. Really, really nice one. The one that was second to her in that respective division, I think, is very extended, very big-boned and big-footed. She tapers to her hip. Just a little bit more awkward there in terms of her bottom line symmetry and doesn't balance with the same level of quality and presence as the one that was ahead of her. A single entry out of our middle division, fresh, awesome hided, extremely immaculate in terms of leg wool presentation. Love that one's angles standing. As I mentioned earlier, she needs to get out and travel with just a little bit more athleticism and comfort in her spine and shoulder, and give her just a nickel bit bigger loin. But that one is so fresh, so youthful up front. I really appreciate that pair of young ladies doing a great job of getting that one presented. As we got into our ewe lambs down here, I think what made the difference was just a little bit more structural integrity and basic function in lower joints in the young ladies' ewe here up front. Love that one's bend and flex and set to her hind leg. Her top line composure and just the ease in which she travels out here in motion. You could drop her in her flank and shorten her in her blade, and she's not necessarily the most powerful one in the world, but I think her extra bloom allows her in a comparative sense to have just a nickel more rib shape than the ewe that was second to her. The ewe that was second in this division, extremely good in terms of her elevation, very juvenile in terms of her look. She's more conservative in her blade length and better in her flank line. I think standing still, that one's top line composure and look from the side can strike you with a look of quality. You get on either end, she's narrower gauged, she's flatter ribbed and just a nickel pinched there in her heart and spine. I need to see that ewe just travel with a little bit more coordination out of her hind leg. I think it's been an exceptional Shropshire show. If you would, please, let's give these exhibitors one last round of applause. I'll go out here and get you a champion reserve female.
Champion ewe for the Shropshire Show goes to the first place yearling ewe, entry 46474, Bryant 25-062, Bell, Miley Williams, Pendleton, Indiana. The reserve champion was our class winner of the early born junior ewe lamb class, Shimmer, Ellsbury, Melanie Wilson, Hagerstown, Indiana. With one short of having enough to award a premier exhibitor, we will not be doing a premier exhibitor for the Shropshires. We needed 6 head in order to do that. That does conclude our Shropshire show. We're going to take a 30-minute break before we come back with our Supreme Championship.